Sometimes when life is happening to us, we get to a point that we think about a lot of things that have happened, and at the same time, we eventually sum totality into a kind of I made this mistake. I shouldn't have taken this decision. I had a very bad time, and that's led to the reason why I had to do this thing. And because I did this thing actually led to this thing. And I really felt myself. And because I did that thing, I'm living in pain. I can't even forgive myself for doing this. And, you know, at that time, I was really in dilemma cycle, and because of the action I actually made, that has affected my life in a manner that is not encouraging or pleasing, and that has even ruined the plan I made for myself. And I don't even see myself living a purposeful life because I've made this mistake and I've done this in the past. I think at this point, I'm going to tell you that whatever you are thinking now, whatever you think you have done wrong, whatever step you think you have taken that you think is affecting your reality now, that you think is giving you a kind of picture of how your life could have been, and you are living in the opposite of that picture, I think at this point I'm going to tell you to just stop. You know, just stop. Don't think about it again. Just zero in and keep quiet. And that is because I believe I have been able to understand. In fact, I have been able to come to terms with the notion that most times when we think that we are actually making a mistake, that mistake is not actually a mistake. That mistake is something leading us to a lesson. It's something leading us to a particular phase of life that we are new to. And because we are new to that phase, we regularly see it as mistakes. But the sum total of that step or that decision or that motion is to take us to a place that we don't know before. And that place we don't know before is what will lead to the next phase of our story. That is what will lead to the next phase of our life. And with that notion, I figured and I was able to understand that it is not just about what you have done before, it is about what is happening now and how you can use now to better what is next to come. And at the same time, what has happened before is a reflection of what has happened in the past. But what will happen is that that reflection is what you are bringing back, you're bringing into your now. And as you're bringing it into your now, it will continue to have an impact, it will continue to have a mark on what will happen in the next, on what will happen in the future, on what will happen tomorrow. And if you're able to reason along with it, you realize that when you're bringing what has happened before into what is happening now, obviously that is what will continue to affect what will happen later. Now, let us take it back to what we are thinking. We are thinking we made some decisions that are wrong. We're thinking we've done something that is very, very wrong and has affected our life. It is going to affect our future. We have taken some decisions. Why don't you see all those things that have happened before? Why don't you have a deeper thought around it? Why don't you have an innermost thinking, a kind of clue understanding about what happened in the past? What has happened in the past? What is it trying to communicate with you? What is it trying to communicate to you? What is it trying to tell you? What can you deduce from it now? Forget about the fact that it is painful, you were wrong. Let us think for a second that what you have done is actually right. And because it is right, what is it trying to tell you about now? If it is not telling you about now, what is it trying to tell you about your future? I was able to use this three notion to mark a kind of understanding around the things that I do tell myself that it was a mistake. Because when I was able to look past it that it is a mistake, I was able to understand that there is more to what I think has happened. And that more is that what has happened before is giving me a message to understand. And if I'm able to understand that message, it is going to be having a positive impact on what will happen now. And at the same time, it's going to be having a kind of an extension of effect on what will happen later or in the future. And that is why I was able to agree to the terms that instead of seeing your mistakes as your mistakes, why don't you just see the mistakes as a lesson? Why don't you see all the things you think you have done that is very wrong, the things you feel is affecting your life now, truly it might be having an effect, an impact. But that impact can be changed. It can be changed the moment you decide to change it. Not because the situation has to change. That has happened in the past, it has gone. But you are thinking on how you can make that path to have a positive effect on what is happening now. And at the same time, how it will have a positive effect on what will happen in your future. The moment I started seeing my mistakes as a lesson to be learned from, I figured that there are a lot of things that has changed about me. Not just about my well-being, but about the way I think about things and the way things eventually turn out to be. And at the long run, I realized that what I think was a mistake, eventually, when I started seeing it differently, I started getting a clearer picture that it was not actually a mistake. It was something that I should learn so I can unravel my next phase of life. It is something that is actually summing total to that part of my future that I'm trying to build. It is something that is giving me clarity about now. It is something that is helping me to become the woman I actually want to be. And that is how I was able to come up with the notion that instead of seeing your mistakes as flaws, instead of seeing your mistakes as things that cost you pain, I understand it can be painful. I understand we've made some bad decisions that we think we can never work out from. But why don't you see those things as lessons to be learned from? Why don't you tap into the concept of coining a lesson from that action you have done and bringing the lesson into your present time? Because the more we think about the negative part of the mistake, the more we think about the pain, it's going to keep having effect on us on the present life, and that will eventually extend into our future. So why don't you leave it as a mistake then and coin the whole story as lesson? And because you're coining it as a lesson, bring it into your now. What impact do you think that then is going to have on your now? What kind of influence do you think you want that to have on your now? If you're thinking about it as a mistake, it will still be painful now. But if you're thinking about it as a lesson, it will definitely have an impact, and that impact is what will help you ease your situation. And eventually, because you're using it as a lesson now, you'll be extending it into your future. During my own journey, I've had some parts of my life, some times of my life that I feel I've made a lot of mistakes. But when I was able to look deeper and think deeply, I figured that these things are not actually mistakes, they are lessons. And not because they are not actually mistakes in the real sense. It was a mistake, right? But at the same time, it was not entirely a mistake. It was an adventure that I actually witnessed. And because I witnessed that, I am not supposed to pick up the errors there. I am supposed to use those errors to create a better notion for myself so that whenever I come across this thing in the future, I will be able to understand that I've experienced this thing once, and because I've experienced it once, this is what I want it to be, not because that is the way it has been. The moment I start tapping into lessons rather than mistakes, I started having a new shift and perspective about life generally. And I began to understand the notion that life is the greatest teacher. And if you're walking through life and you're not having some experiences, the good ones and the bad ones, you won't be having the foundation that will equip you to have a grounded personality. I believe that most of the great people out there, they did not just come up and sum up different ideas. They are coining, they are building their own personality and the kind of reflection they give to society, all based on the kind of experience they have had in the past, the good ones and the bad ones. They have the good ones that turn out to be good eventually, but the bad ones, they are using that as a stepping stone to build other things around them, and which in turn come together to sum total into the kind of person they are. So I believe this notion helps to ease stress. Like it helps reduce a lot of stress. It helps to make you see things for what they are. Not because it is actually causing you pain, but because there is more to learn. And based on what I shared in my previous video about building resilience through hardship, also the rule breaker mindset and affirmations, and as well as the particular one where I mentioned about healing, I figured that if we human beings don't actually go through pain, if we don't experience hardship and difficulty, our sensitivity about being a human will not come to play. That is when we begin to think deeper about our life. Because we've gone through pain, that is when our initiative starts to come to play. Most times, if we are living our life based on ease, we are living it based on what we want is coming to play, based on I set my goal towards this and it is happening exactly the way I plan it to be. We won't be having more reason to think, we won't be having more reason to plan even further and ahead. But the moment we tap into the concept of pain, we tap into the concept of difficulty, we tap into the concept of things is hard and we're trying to strive through the whole situation, that is when our initiative comes to play. That is when people will begin to unravel their potentials. That's when people will begin to see things for what they are. That's when people will really understand that there is difference between what we call ease and pain. So I figure that if you're able to make your mistakes your lessons, you have greater chances of not falling into the same mistake, as well as you have chances of not repeating the same thing in the same manner. Don't get me wrong, sometimes you might repeat some mistakes consistently, but it will not be in the same manner. It will be in a different manner. And at the long run, because it is not in the same manner, you will still be getting different lessons from these mistakes. And when I look around my whole life, just like I shared in one of my videos as well, how I started over in life, I figured that when I was reflecting on the past, because I mentioned this three reflection in my journey on how I started over and how I got my life on track. I mentioned these three notions there that when I was reflecting on the past and I was trying to analyze my present, then plan my future, I figured that there are some things I've actually done in different manner, of which because I'm giving myself a new opportunity to do things again, I will be picking those notions from the past and using it as a yardstick on how to build my present, then plan my future. So, and I was able to deduce that there are so many things I do tell myself it was a mistake, but at the long run, I figured there are actually lessons, and that's what has brought about this video today. These are mistakes that I feel or that I felt I have done, that I have made, but at the long run, they turn out to be lessons for me. And because they are lessons, I have learned through them and I have been able to build my life on it. In fact, presently, when I started seeing these mistakes as lesson now, it is giving me more sense of clarity and purposeful life because I am seeing things on a very neutral and plain ground. I am saying things for what they are, not just because of I am thinking that it is bad or it has made me cry. Though I cried over some, I lamented, I complained, it was painful. But I figured that if I had not gone through that pain, I wouldn't have understood the lesson. I wouldn't get the message clearly, and I wouldn't be speaking the way I am talking now. So in this video, I'm going to be sharing with you some mistakes I have actually made that I think there are mistakes. And these mistakes, I have actually turned them into lessons. And these lessons are not just words, though I learned some through the hard way. And I also figured that sometimes you pay a whole lot of fortune, you pay a whole lot of wealth to invest into something, and at the end of the day, what you are getting is not going to be the result or the profit you feel you'll be getting. What you'll be getting is just a lesson out of the whole journey. And that was it. So I'm going to be sharing with you today some mistakes I have had, what I have done in the past that I have been able to turn into lesson, and it has actually created a positive, massive impact in my life. One of the lessons I have learned from my mistake is that this is one thing I actually battled with for a very long time. I felt it was actually a mistake. Okay, I'm going to be explaining this in two ways based on being a mistake, and the other one, the lesson I'm actually able to point out from it. And the first thing on the list is about the art of being me, right? Self realization and actualization. When I started my life, I got pregnant at an early age, and during that time, I don't really have a kind of inner thought about myself. I don't know myself quite all right, and I don't even know the kind of woman I want to become. Though I have this, you know, blinking picture of myself that I wish I can become this, I wish I want to do this, I wish I can do that. But because of the notion that I got pregnant for someone and before I know it, I'm already the wife in somebody else's house. And I had to actually live my life based on his notions, his choices, his standards. And because of that, I don't really have a say on anything. I just see it as he's the man of the house, so he will controlling the house. He is going to tell me what to do. Basically, I have to live my life based on his notions. And it got to a point that I figured that some of these notions, or most of these notions, are not actually aligning with me. And I think that point was when I was having my self awakening. I was beginning to see myself in a clearer picture. But because I was not actually seeing myself before, I have not realized myself to actualize the kind of person I want to become. I think that cost me some inadequacies in my marriage because at the long run, when I started making some choices that I would have actually wanted my life to be, when I started speaking of that I want to become this type of person, this is the kind of life I want to live, this is the kind of career I want to have, this is the kind of path I want to follow, that begin to create a negative feedback and the results as regards to the fact that I'm not a person that complains before. Why do I now have to start coming up with different notions? And because the man I actually settled with then is not the type of person that is not willing to accommodate a woman having her own personality, other than the personality the husband actually wants for her. So that created a very big gap and separation between us. And I think that is the first thing. Yes, that is the first thing on my list. That is self realization. Most times, when you don't know yourself, when you don't understand yourself enough, you're going to be ripping yourself off choices that you're supposed to be making. We are individual and we always should have our personality. If you don't know what you want in life, you don't know the kind of life you want to build, you don't know the kind of husband you want to marry, you don't know the kind of home you want to build, you don't know the kind of career you want to have, the color of your skin, the number of your children, that is going to cost you a lot of inadequacies, especially in union and relationship. Because when you start off with you adhering to the rules of your opposite, your partner, if you not start going against the rules that you don't want this, you don't want that, that is going to be creating a lot of bridge between you. So I figured it was actually a mistake before because I feel I don't understand myself enough. I don't see myself enough. I don't have choices. I don't really have a say. I don't have a particular direction other than whatever it says. But the lesson I was able to point from it is that whatever I am doing in life, I have to be able to understand myself. I have to be able to know myself. I should be able to define what I'm want, what I'm willing to get from the relationship. I'm not just going into a relationship because of somebody. I am doing this because of myself. And because it is because of myself, I need to be able to actualize myself. I need to give myself that validation to see myself for who I am. Then to make me understand, is this going to work for me or it is not? Is this going to be lasting with me? Am I going to be a part of this thing or not? What kind of man do I want? What kind of life do I want? What kind of career do I want to choose? And I think not understanding myself enough, you know, though it cost me my marriage eventually, but it gave me a deeper lesson that as an individual, especially being a woman, you need to be able to realize yourself so you can actualize yourself. What is the art of being you? Not because of somebody, but because of you. And if you look at this in the general concept of life, I think it affects almost everything we do. Sometimes we're trying to inculcate the habits of others into our lives, and we are forgetting the fact that we are not this person. This thing might not sit well with me. Obviously, even this video I'm making now might not sit well with everybody. But at the same time, it will resonate with those that are actually intentional, those that know what they are looking for. If you're looking for a video that is not actually about you getting a brighter picture of lessons, when you open this video, it might not even make sense to you. You might just end up closing it up. So I believe as a woman, you need to be able to realize yourself for who you are. That is how you're going to be making choices that actually suit you. Not because somebody is forcing you to do anything, but because you know yourself, you know how much you can tolerate, you know how much you can entertain. And because of that, you will be able to make better choices for yourself. And I think the second thing on my list that I've actually turned into lesson that was a mistake before is having financial stability and the pressure of finances. I think at first it was a mistake because when I was getting into my marriage then, I don't have a job, I don't have a certificate, I don't have a career, I don't have anything. And I actually thought that my ex-husband would be providing for me, so why do I have to stress much? And moreover, based on our conversation then, he said it's going to be working, we should be working together as regards to me supporting his career. I should support his dream while I stay back home to nurture the kids and welcome him with an open arms. I figured that was a good thing to do because, as a wife, based on my understanding before about marriage, is that you should be the one to support your husband, your partner, and you should be welcoming whenever he returns home. But I've forgotten that most times one of the greater problem women face when they want to leave their marriage, or the problem that has turned most women to be indecisive about their marriage, is financial stability and pressure. Most women are still in that marriage because they can't stand the pressure of finances. And that is because they have not actually built their life on working for money. They have not built their life on how to make money. They feel the burden and pressure should be on the man alone. Don't get me wrong, I believe the man are the provider of the house, but that doesn't mean you should not be able to cater for yourself as need me. You should be able to work for your money, and this money will come to play whenever you are in dilemma. And I think I battled with this for years after my separation because it was a whole hell lot of help on me. I was not used to something as regards to working. Not that I don't really want to work, but it was not allowing me to work. And because I was getting into the open field, working, balancing motherhood and my children, it was a whole lot. Now considering that's my kind of lifestyle to somebody that already has some financial stability in place, somebody that already knows the drill, somebody that already know how this thing works, that is already working or probably have some reservation with her finances somewhere, and she gets to leave her husband's house, she'll be getting more financial stability than somebody like me. So though it was a lesson at first when I was thinking about it that, it was a mistake at first rather when I was thinking about it that I made this mistake. I should have started working. I should have gotten a job. I wanted to start a business. I shouldn't have listened to him. I should have gotten into the business and started again. That would have given me some financial security. And even now that I'm actually going back into the days after, the story is just a lot. But I figured that has actually opened my eyes into that. As a woman, regardless of the gender, you should be able to create financial stability for yourself. Even if it is not up to 100%, you should be able to at least give yourself over 50%. You don't have to rely on a man to source for you. Sure, the man will source for you when the time is, maybe you're married or is your partner, you're planning to get married, he's actually doing his duty, not because he's pressurized to do it. It has to be on a very loving level. And at the same time, that does not mean you should be sitting with folded arms doing nothing at all. Because sometimes we have different issues that need to be addressed in different ways. It can even be that your husband eventually loses his life or he gets crippled or something happened along the way to him that you can't even explain how the thing gets into play. And you will have to step up to nurture your kids. So then I was thinking I should have started a job, I should have done this, but I figured that this point, I understand quite all right now that my finances should be my baby. It is very important for me to have this financial knowledge and enlightenment so I will be able to cater for a lot of things. If I had gotten that before, I wouldn't be here, maybe now, but at the same time, I am here and I am using that as a lesson to create the new path for myself. Now I started guessing, looking for a job. I started looking for opportunities, different things to be done. And though it is taking time before all these things will actually settle in, but at the same time, I have learned, and that is even one of the reasons why I have chosen not to get married yet. Because if I go back into this journey again, I'm going to be leaving a lot of things undone, which will eventually affect that relationship. And because I don't want to bring the baggage I'm bringing before into the new one, I have to make sure I'm putting some things in play. And that has to be about my finances too. So, financial stability and pressure, you need to understand there are two things in one. Stability means you getting that ground. You are grounded and you're standing firm. And the pressure is that whenever there is a kind of shaky or a kind of wave that wants to affect you, your stability will help you to withstand the pressure. And I think the third thing that was a mistake that I've actually turned into lesson is that there is something called societal influence. Societal influence means we as women will always want to consider what society has to say. And that is one thing I actually do. I did that for a very long time. In fact, when I wanted to take a decision to leave my marriage, then I was thinking, what will people say? That actually affected me because it affected the way I was thinking. I was not actually thinking for myself. I was thinking for somebody else, some people. I was thinking for the picture outside my own image. And because of that, I could not take decisions when necessary. I was trying to abide, and it was affecting me on a true ground. But eventually, I figured that this influence will only rip you off of your choices. People don't really care. They only care, not even care, they only pay attention, they only try to milk your story so they can have something to say about you. And the moment you allow them, one thing is that people will always talk. People are bound to talk. People will respond. Whatever you say, even if you tell them you are black, they will still tell you you are yellow. They'll still tell you something else. But you shouldn't allow that to be a yardstick for you to make your choices. Though I don't see that as lesson, but that's mistake. But now I'm seeing it as a lesson because when you allow the society to influence you, they are going to push you to the wall that you will be clueless about yourself. And eventually, do you know what will happen? When they eventually push you to a level that you can't really make a choice again, they will eventually turn the blame on you. That is what will happen. So I figured that to do that is to milk the society. I don't really have to listen to them. Though I can listen to them on the fact that I am hearing perspective from different people. Not because I am actually bringing their perspective to my way of doing things. It is just opinion. It is what they think about something, not in the real sense of what is happening. When I decided to eventually leave, even after I've been thinking about what somebody will say, people blamed me. And you know what happened was that I already prepared my mind because at that point I don't even care again. I was not even bothered about what somebody has to say. Because I was not actually bothered, when they started talking, they were talking. But after a while, do you know what happened? I just realized that people were not actually talking again. Everything just kept quiet. And eventually, those that were even giving me attitude before, some of them will continue, to communicate on a very low level. But some of them, they will even act as if nothing happened again. So people don't really care. So you're thinking about what the society, as the societal influence, putting the pressure on you will rip you off your choices. You will not be able to take decisions. So all you have to do then is mold the crowd. You don't need the opinion of everybody. When you take their opinions, filter it and debunk at least 90% of them. Then you think, you deliberate about the 10%, and you only need at least 1 or 2% out of everything that has been said. Because if you keep using that as a yardstick for you to make your choices, you're going to be ripping off yourself. And when I started realizing that, when I understood that, honestly, it got a lot easier. Instead of me communicating with people whenever I want to take an action, I just speak to myself and ask myself, do I want to do this? Is this going to work for me? Not on the level of now. I mean, later, in the future, after 5 years, is this going to still work for me? Will I be happy about this? And if I figure that I will be happy about this, there is a yes. But if I figure that what somebody is saying in the next 2, 3, 4, 5 years, will I still be happy about this? If the answer is no, then I dispose it immediately. That is how you have your life. And this is one of the things I mentioned in how to have a peaceful life, that is muting the crowd and listen to yourself. When you mute the crowd, you will be able to listen to yourself talk. You'll be able to understand yourself on a deeper level, not because somebody else is coming to you to do something, because you're actually giving yourself the actualization that I want to do this and I'm willing and intentional to make this happen. So, societal influence, honestly, it created some impact on me, and I think now I understand and I believe clearly that you just have to note the crowd. Don't listen to them. Whatever they say, see it as an opinion and take the decision with what exactly is going on with you. And I think the first thing on my list that I actually did that I was seeing as mistake is sacrificing to please. I can talk about this for a long while. When it comes to sacrificing, I did a lot of that, honestly. And sometimes when I think about it before, I do think it was a mistake. It was not worth it. But it got to a point that I figured that I did it out of love. I did it out of care. I did it out of the fact that I want something to work. And because it did not work does not mean it is actually my fault. And not because I was not sacrificing enough. In fact, it got to a point that I was almost blaming myself that I did not do enough. But I figured that the person I am doing it for is the one that is not appreciated. The person does not see it as anything. And because it does not see it as anything, it was not having an impact on him. So I am not supposed to be bothered about my input. My concern should be, am I doing this for the right person? And because I'm not doing it for the right person, it is not going to be having a positive impact. It's going to be having a negative impact. And that is it. Most times, when you are doing something, you don't do something to please others. You do something to please yourself. Do I understand that sometimes when you do something to please others, it is not because you are the one expecting the result. But think, is the next generation going to be benefiting from this? If no, then there is no point. You just have to be able to do some sacrifices for yourself. I sacrificed my first educational certificate, the second one, pursuing a dream, a career, a business. I can't even count the number of things I have sacrificed all in the name of love and making the reunion work. But sometimes you are not sacrificing for the right person, and the right person has to be you. Is this thing going to be a mark on your future? Is this thing going to have an impact on your children? If it is a no, then check again. Is it going to be having an impact on your family? No. Check again. Is it going to be having an impact on the society or the general mass of the people? Then if the answer is no, then it is not worth it. You understand that sometimes we do something not because of ourselves but because of our children. But if the children are not benefiting from it, the society, you yourself as the primary focus, you're not benefiting from it. What is the point? Then you just have to do away with it. Sometimes doing something to please people will only make you appear weaker to those that don't really appreciate your effort. But do you know what will happen to those that actually appreciate? They will see you as somebody that is worthy, a kind of prize that has to be won by the best player. It was a mistake before as I was thinking, but at long I realized that sometimes you have to sacrifice for yourself, and most times you don't need to sacrifice to please people. The sacrifice you are making has to be for yourself. And if it does not have an impact on you, then it is not worth it. And at the same time, the sixth thing I have actually turned into my lesson is creating a purpose to please somebody. It got to a point that when I was living my life, I was not actually living for myself. I was living for somebody else because the purpose was for him. I joined his tutorial, I joined the school, I helped him make a lot of things work just because I was living for him. But you know what happened was that eventually I figured he was not appreciating my efforts. In fact, he had to tell me to leave at some point because he felt that I was inconveniencing him because I figured he was having some headache cases with some ladies and the likes of them. But at that point, I realized that I was not actually living for myself. I don't have a purpose. And you see, this purpose of a thing, purpose to please somebody, sacrificing to please, and also you not realizing yourself, there are like three things in one. If you don't have a purpose within yourself, you don't have what you're working towards, you don't have a goal, you don't have an ambition, you don't have something you're trying to build or create within yourself, then you realize that you're just living a life full of wrong impression to the wrong person or to the wrong people. And that I was able to understand that if you are creating a purpose for yourself, don't create it based on somebody else's notions. Don't create it to build the life of somebody. Sometimes I was told that because I have children, I'm not supposed to take up some choices because of them. But I was asking them that who told you that I will be alive to see them when they grow older if I continue to live in this situation? Who is giving you that assurance that I will feel fine, I will be good when those kids eventually grow up if I keep living this type of life? Then, looking at it on the very objective side, that is just the fact about it. There is no point. So, if I'm not creating a purpose for myself, if I'm not giving myself a purpose to please based on my notions and expectations of myself, then there is no point. And I think it's a lesson. You don't have to create a purpose to please anybody. You're creating a purpose to please yourself. And not just yourself, but your creator at the end of the day. And I think the sixth thing on my list that I've actually turned into my lesson is that you you giving birth early and being a single mom is a mistake. I think I'm going to be taking that as two notions. Giving birth early. Truly, I was seeing that as an issue before. But at the long run, most times when I come in contact with people and I tell them that I'm a single mother of two, they will be like, wow, are you actually trying to push me away? Are you trying to say that so I can lose interest? And I think that's what happened. Giving birth early will give you enough time to be able to look after your kids. Will give you enough time to nurture your kid and also to get your body back in shape. I believe I'm going to be making a video someday about my full picture. Honestly, because most times when I look at myself, I try to question myself as well. That why can't people see that I already have two kids? Why are they still questioning me? In fact, this morning when I was still walking past to make this video, somebody met me on the road and the person was like, I thought that was your sister's children. I don't even know they are yours. You don't even look like one. And I'm happy because if I had not given birth at early age, my body would not be like this. And that was even because I tried to pay attention to my body. And I think I'm going to be making a video one of these days on how I was able to get my body in shape, even with a mom, with having two kids. There are some things I've actually put in place that I do and that I drink, that I take, that is working. I'm not talking about taking chemicals or even buying drugs off the shelf. No, I don't buy. But I make them, they are made of natural. And I'm going to be showing the videos someday in those days. So, you giving birth early, people sometimes can mock you, but the reason why people would mock you and gain that confidence mocking you is because you don't have a sense of purpose. If you have where you're focused on, where you are going, where you're directing your actions to, you realize that you giving birth early will give you a lot of time to be able to work on yourself and regard yourself. In fact, to nurture your children. And there is no age somebody cannot be a single mother. But you should understand that the earlier you accept that notion, the better. And the earlier you will be able to start living your life again. Being a single mom is not a curse, but it all depends on how we are seeing it. In fact, I've seen a lot of successful people out there. They started becoming more successful when they are able to let go of relationship that does not serve them. Rather than waiting for somebody else's approval, they started approving themselves, even with the fact that they have kids. And having those kids is one of the reasons, one of the driving forces that keep pulling them to be the kind of woman they are today. I was thinking it was a mistake. These kids are going to obstruct my journey. I'm starving. Do fine. It is not convenient, bringing two kids to my life. I have to search for myself and even these children. But at the same time, I realized that because they are there, I am able to work harder. I'm not even harder, I am able to work smarter. There was a time my elder girl, she's 9, she'll be 10 this year, imagine. She'll be 10 this year. She was asking me, Mommy, have you started your YouTube channel? Have you started? I was like, yes, I already made some videos, but I'm not comfortable. I'm busy, I'm having stress, this one, that one. Then the following day, she asked again, Mommy, have you made another video? Have you made another video? I was like, no, I'll make it tomorrow. The next morning, she came to wake me up. Mommy, when are you going to make the YouTube video? I said, I will. I'm depressed. Though I understand that they don't really understand some of the things I say, but I'm depressed. I think I'm taking it too much. I want to take a break. I want to do this. I want to do that. Then she told me, what about your school? Can you do the video there? In fact, I was moved to tears. Though I was already thinking about it, that can I try making some videos in my workplace? And she mentioned it that okay, what if you are stressed when you get to what if when you get to school? What if when you get to school, can you make some video there? Then I was like, wow. And you know what? She will ask me on daily basis, Mommy, how many videos have you made? Have you uploaded them? Let me see your channel. That gave me a kind of, that's wow, I can't even believe that. She's paying attention. These kids can be your driving force to create a lot of good things. In fact, sometimes when I look at her, I'll be like, how I wish she's even older than this so that I can talk and communicate with her. And you know what I did in return was that most times when I have some things, I try to carry her along. She and though our younger brother is still very small, but I try to put them in the picture. And because they're in that picture, I think about things not just because of myself again, but because of them. And I figured that if I hadn't taken this decision, so this time wouldn't have come to play. And it shows that they really understand to an extent what is going on. And they also know what I'm trying to achieve. Don't be blindfolded by the pressure of giving birth early is a mistake or being a single is a mistake. It is one of the greatest reasons you can ever have to have a successful life. And because whenever I look at them, I see them, I look at them, I give myself that path that I have been able to see these kids up to this point, and I want to use that to continue keeping on this path. So I'll be able to give them a good sense of living. And by the time they look up to me someday, they realize that this woman actually started. She fought for something that is worthwhile, that they themselves would see as part of their learning journey. And I believe this video will help you shed some light about the mistakes I have actually turned into lesson. And don't forget to subscribe, like the video, and share. Until I see you in my next one. Bye.